Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now we're taking another look here today at Matic. So thank you so much for joining me here today if you're a return viewer. And if you're new to the channel, I hope you learn as much as you can here today because I always focus on educating you so you can be successful on your own way. And just know I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research and always take ownership of your own trades because it's really important that you, do your own research at all times and make sure you have your own confidence going into it. Don't let anybody tell you what to do when trading, right? Now, I do share all of my trades with my community members through my Patreon account, so check that out, of course. I provide you with entry points, stop targets, profit targets, of course, and just help kind of walk you along the process so you know what the day in life of a trader is looking like. But more importantly, I want you to, again, be cautious and careful and smart. Everything you're going to learn here today, I utilize in my trading, and I have about an 80% success rate. Regardless of that fact, again, just enjoy the video. Hope you learned something here today, and without further ado, let's just go ahead and get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look here at Matic. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first. So if you're new to the channel, we just look at those two coins because it makes the most sense to understand the two largest coins in the industry and understand, obviously, how they're impacting these altcoins that we look at. So we'll take a look at that here. Of course, first and foremost, the thing we always look at is Bitcoin. And just to preface, this is TradingView.com. I use TradingView desktop application, essentially. And what this is it's a really, really good charting tool. So recommend you check it out if you don't already use it. And obviously make sure you consider the paid version because 2 indicators at one time is the default for the non-paid, and it can be very cumbersome to keep adding and removing them. So recommend you check that out. Of course, I have a link in the description below for, I think, a free month. See if you like it. All right, so either way, let's go ahead and take a look here at Bitcoin. Excuse me. And what we're looking at is a 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. And we're going to utilize the simple moving averages. Okay, so I like the SMA lines on the 4-hour chart. It just makes the most sense. It's the best time frame for it because the industry leaders are using the same exact charting tools, right? So as you can see, the 50 works as a major support and resistance level. It was previously resistance, now it's a support. Same with the 200 as well. It's just moving a little bit slower, and we won't see that tested for some time. The 50 will probably get tested, I'm guessing, by the end of this weekend, depending on how the price action continues. I'm speculating Bitcoin will retrace eventually back down to 46,500, in which we could probably buy the dip. That's my thought process, my hope, of course. Don't get me wrong, I want to continue to go up as well, but I don't want to pay this much for it, right? Kind of makes the most sense there. Moving forward, also note that we have major support, of course, at 46,500. That was a previous resistance. Current secondary support at 44,200, and of course, 42,500 is the tertiary or primary support level that we had originally. Also note too that Bitcoin has a major resistance at about 51,000, but no other besides the support and resistance levels that are going to be created over the next few trading days. There's really nothing holding this back from shooting straight up to 51,000. Okay, so just something to note. That's kind of how that works there for Bitcoin. Moving on to Ethereum, pretty much just repeat the exact same thing I just said about Bitcoin for Ethereum. It's almost following it to a T. We see the same support for the 50. We've got only different totals. Of course, we've got 2,900 for a support, a secondary support at 2,400, and then 1,725 back here with a major resistance at the next major resistance is about 3,550. So we're about halfway there, a little further. So just be prepared for the price to kind of reject at 3,600 because that is the next major resistance for Ethereum. Moving on to Matic, let's take a look at the one-day chart here and then work our way down. So obviously we've got some support and resistance levels on here from my previous analysis, which is awesome because we can just kind of build off of that. But bottom line here is the one-day chart, we're up over the 50 and the 200. The 200 worked as a support level when Bitcoin went sub 30,000, so we can kind of see that there. Also note as well, the average true range for Matic is right around, I think, well, we're in that average range now. It's about 120, upwards of about 180. Okay, so with Matic being about 145, 150, I think that there's still room for growth, but I don't think it's going to just shoot straight to the moon. I mean, it has a tendency of doing that in the past, don't get me wrong. And when it did this previously, just before this major retracement here, this was the Bitcoin issue over in China candle essentially. It did very, very well. It really said, screw you, Elon, I don't care about you, and we just kept on going up. Okay. So it could very well do that again. I think if we get to 50,000 for Bitcoin, Matic will definitely break resistance of 162 upwards of 182. Okay. So that's kind of where we're at for the 1 day chart. RSI is just peaking up over 70. Doesn't mean you have to sell. It's just meaning that the price action is above. Moving forward also, let's take a look at the 4-hour chart and see what we can find out here now. Obviously, we had a breakout there. We can get rid of this. But looking at the simple moving averages, simply put, the 50 is working as a support, and so is the 200 as a trailing, of course. But bottom line is that we have a major support level at 120, so if the price does retrace, we got 120 to support us here. And there's no, pretty much from what I recall, there's really no major support and resistance levels in between here and what is it, 160, I think it was? Yeah, 162, 160, we could pretty much round up to say 163. So, you know, we've got another 10, 15 cents worth of movement before we have some potential rejection. Okay. Looking at RSI, we're under 70, which is fantastic. And what's great about this too is you can see the price is trending, or pretty much hovering above 50 and below 70. So that really tells us that we have a support level at 50 RSI, which is good. So if the RSI comes back down, it will likely bounce. We've got the MACD as well on August 10th. We had a convergence at 9 a.m. So let's go ahead and mark that there. And if you've seen my videos before, you'll probably know where I'm going with this. I always look at the 4-hour chart, MACD, to kind of see where we had convergences, and then see if there's a correlation between that and the Ishimoku cloud on the 1-hour chart. There typically always is. We'll just go ahead and see if we can identify that next. So let's take a look here, Ishimoku cloud. Big surprise. Right there, when we got a MACD convergence on the 4-hour chart, the price was just starting to trend above the cloud, and it worked as a support level too, along with the 50-day moving average, and it brought the price up. That's awesome. We love to see that. So just note right now that the cloud is essentially working as a support level still. So if it comes down, it might test and reject, but we've got the 50 as well. So it's kind of nice. We have this double support with the 50 and, of course, the Ishimoku cloud. Now, looking at the TD Sequential, let's go ahead and see where we're at here. We're probably getting some resets here. This is null and void, but generally speaking, TD Sequential is a really good tool to understand market exhaustion. When the price is, getting closer to a 9, so 9 candles into a bullish or bearish trend, there's signals up for reversal. So reversal usually happens within the next 4 hours or less. Almost always happens right at 9, but sometimes it continues on into overtime. So right now, it being at a 4, really it's just kind of consolidating, so to speak. So we shouldn't expect to see much, but here's an example of how the TD Sequential works. You see the 1 through the 9 here, and then the leg up. This is overtime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, wow, there was like almost 17 hours of overtime. And when I say overtime, that's just a term that I use. That's not like a technical term. But generally speaking, you can see that there should have been a retracement here. Price should have went down, but instead Matic decided to, slingshot into another, above the support level. And what probably happened here is you can see this is most likely a short squeeze where there's a lot of shorts at 120 as their stop limit, and they got squeezed out when the price went above. That's why you commonly see the price shooting through support and resistance levels, right? It's like, why doesn't it just test there? Well, a lot of times it will test, but when it breaks hard and fast because a lot of these short, the short bulls essentially are just getting squeezed out. They all close their positions and the price just ramps up. That's why we saw that 9 go into overtime. Anyways, just something to understand. Put that in your pocket for later. Your metaphorical pocket, right? Your trading pocket. All right, moving on to the 15-minute chart. Just to quickly note, we'll take a peek at the EMAV App. Also, if you haven't noticed already, I only use 2 indicators per time frame. Okay, try not to convolute yourself and be one of those guys on YouTube that just does one of these and talks and brags about how awesome their indicators are. Less is more, man. I tell you what, do a lot less and you'll be much better off. That's why if you pick 2 indicators that work the best on per time frame, you're always going to be more successful because you get less, false positive, less, less crap, less BS, right? I don't know. That's just kind of how I look at it. But what do I know? I've only been trading for 15 years. Moving on to the EMA and VWAP notification. VWAP, first of all, if you're new to the channel, volume weighted average price, simply put, tells us the volume of the last 24 hours expressed as a price. Right now, VWAP should be 143, whereas the price is about 147. That's a standard deviation of well under 3%, which is great. That means this little continuation will likely continue, right? So we'll probably see Matic slowly keep this little staircase pattern upwards, until it hits a resistance of likely 162. Until obviously, unless it ramps up quick like it did before here, and it has to retrace further. But right now I like this because as you can see, the VWAP is working as a support. So the price keeps bouncing off VWAP here. Look at that. Bounce, bounce, bounce. So if it comes back down again, it might also bounce again. Okay. So that's the great thing about the VWAP. It isn't just a tool utilized to understand the volume. It translates that very well. But what it does, it really tells us if it's working, the price is either above or below support, which is great because you don't always have to continuously make new support and resistance levels. This is like a moving support level with the volume and the price. It's pretty cool. So use that if you can. It's most effective on the 15-minute chart or lower. I also utilize the EMA, which is this red line here. So if you can kind of see the price being below, it's more bearish, right? Price above is bullish. So it's really just a momentous indicator telling us it's the same concept as a MACD, where the MACD is just intersecting the 12 with the 26. That's when you get your convergence. Well, this happens here too. It's only on top of the price action, which is better in a lot of ways because you can vividly see how the price is going without overlaying your MACD. That being said, the price is above, considered bullish, not bearish, right? So right now you can see it's kind of a bullish trend because even though the price rejected off the EMA here, we still got the VWAP to support us. That's why taking entry when the price is above EMA and VWAP is ultimately the best consideration. That's where I rarely take entry outside of that unless there's a lot of other strong factors, but that's what I like to look at. So if we look at the 1-day charts, a 4-hour chart, we're like, okay, great, we're over support on the 50 and the 200. We got a recent MACD convergence. And on the 1-hour chart, you see the Ishimoku cloud is just kind of taking off. You're right above the cloud. And then you quickly check the 15-minute and you get the confirmation the bulls are in control above EMA and VWAP. It's like a perfect storm, man. You're all set when you do that. You go long and you don't look back without, of course, obviously you set a stop target, stop loss, but that goes without saying. You should always do that anyways, regardless if you are trading. So anyways, that's what I just want to look at here. So big picture, my prediction is that in the next couple of days, couple of weeks, hard to say specifically, but we will see this resistance level of 162, 163 rather, be tested. It'll likely reject initially, and it'll break through depending on how Bitcoin is performing. But if Bitcoin ramps up to 51,000, Matic will absolutely surpass 163, and it'll be shooting up to about 182 thereafter, right? So good luck if you're currently in a long-term swing trade with Matic. And obviously, if you'd like some help with that, feel free to reference my community. I don't know if I described this earlier. Actually, I typically usually do. But I like to make sure that you understand this because when you trade, I share all of my trades, right? So with my community members, I have about an 80% success rate. It's a really awesome little group of folks there. And we just kind of all learn and grow together. And I basically share all of my, my targets, my stop targets, my take profit targets, pretty much everything you need to know to be more successful. And I do have about an 80% success rate. So I just like to throw that out there so you understand that that's an option for you. So there's a lot of people that are benefiting from that right now and that weren't aware of that originally. Okay, so just check that out in your own time, of course. No obligation. More importantly, that you check out my Telegram community if you're not already a member there, just so you can be up to date with all these videos. I send out updates, of course, as well as best practice, and everyone can kind of learn and grow together. We collaborate frequently. Check that out. So without further ado, we'll just call it a day here today. Thank you so much for joining me. Best of luck out there. Be safe. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.